Hello and welcome back. Let's talk about control flows in JavaScript. It simply refers to the order in which computer executes the statements in a script. This order is affected by structures like conditional statements, loops, and switch statements. As the definition, there are three control flows that we are going to discuss today, and those are if, else if, and else, which is a control flow of execution based on condition. For loop and while loop, those are to repeat a block of code until a condition is met. And we have switch. It's again a control flow for the execution based on a condition, and you could call this as an alternative to the first one, which is if, else, if, and else. Let's get into it. Let's start with the first control flow in our list, which is if, else if, and else. As a definition, it should control the flow of our execution based on a certain condition. And for this one, let's have an example of grouping people by their ages. Let's say if I have an age variable and we initialize it with 25, then we should be able to categorize this age based on the conditions like if the age is greater than or equal to 18, it should be categorized as an adult. Else if it's greater than or equal to 13, we should categorize it as a teenager, and everything else should be treated as a child. So if we have this, and this is the syntax on how you write the if conditions. As you remember that we used to write expressions inside a parenthesis, and with the if condition you must use parentheses. And we use parentheses to define our conditions inside. Let's say if age is greater than and equal to 18. So we have the first condition, age greater than and equal to 18. Then we have set of curly braces, and here is the part or the block of code that runs if this condition is met. Now we say that we are just console log it to the screen and says that you are an adult. So for now we just print it into the screen. Now the other condition was that people greater than or equal to 13 are treated as teenagers. Then we would use else if. Here we have another condition, and that condition is again age greater than or equal to 13. Then the block of code for this condition, and we are simply logging to a screen saying that you are a teenager. And we have defined that everyone else with a different age will be treated as child, because if they are not greater than or equal to 18 or in between 18 and 13, then they are a child. Then we just console log and say that you are a child. Now run the application, and Since the age is 25, we get that you're an adult. If I change it to 18, I should still get an adult because we have greater than and equal to, or equal to. And if I have 17, then we are on the teenager range. And if we are, let's say 10, the age is 10, then it should be treated as child. Let's continue with the next item in the list, which is loops. We have for and while loop here. Let's define for loop first. Okay, for loop has a structure or syntax as here. We have the for keyword, open close parentheses, and the block that is getting repeated based on the condition that we define here. And in order to specify the condition so that this block gets repeated or executed repeatedly, we have to define a initializer for this for loop, means from where it should start, and the condition to where it should go, and an incrementer. It should increment in the initialized variable inside for loop so that it repeats the loop until the condition. Let's start with the example and then it's easier to understand. Let's I equal to 0. This is the initialization part. Then I would say I less than 5 and I plus plus. Means that we run this block of code from 0 until 5. 5 is excluded because we are checking less than 5. If we want to include 5, then less than equal to. Then until 5 and I plus plus means that let's say that I want to console log I. As you can see here, we have 0 printed and the last one is 4 because the 5 is not included. And it printed 0 because we started from 0. How does it happen? Okay, the first time when the block gets executed, I is 0, then console log is 0. The next time, I gets incremented. Every time the block runs, I gets incremented, and next time when the I increments, I was 0, 0 plus plus means 1. It's getting incremented by 1. Now I is 1, then the condition 1 is less than 5, yes, run again. Then 1 is printed. Value of I is 1, then the next increment plus plus means 1 I is 2. 2 less than 5, yes, printer 2. It goes up to 4. This is how a for loop works. On the other hand, we have while loop. It's exactly doing what for loop does in a different way. And for this we have while keyword, your condition area, and block of code. But here we don't initialize and we don't put the condition inside the parentheses. The only thing, incremental. The only thing we have to define in the parentheses is the condition. So I would say, and we can define the initialization of the while loop outside while loop block of code. We would say let's count equal to 0. Let's do exactly what we did here. I would say let's count equal to 0, and now we set the condition inside the parentheses, count less than 5, then inside the block we print as we did here, console.log count. And here is the different part. Again, I need a increment so that my value of count gets incremented up to 5, then I would do the increment part here, count plus plus. I could also use, instead of plus plus, remember that we had plus equal to and 1. So this actually does exactly what plus plus does. Now, if I run it, let me just label it here while. Okay, we have while loop 0 up to 4. So it does exactly the same as for loop does, but using a different structure. Sometimes you may need to use while or for in some situations. So it depends, and this is how you define these two type of loops. And lastly, let's talk about switch. Switch is again another control flow that executes based on a condition. In some cases, it's an alternative to the if, else, if, and else. Let's see the syntax of switch. We have switch keyword, the switch value on what we are going to run this switch, and we have the switch block. Inside the switch block we have different cases, and this case is actually based on the value that we are switching by. Let's start with an example which make some sense. Let's say I have day of week variable, and this can take from 1 up to 7, means 1 is Monday, if we assume that 1 is Monday and 2 is Tuesday and so on, then we can switch this variable and we can define the cases. So in case 1 colon, then we do only, in this case we are printing on the console Monday. Sorry if I can write it well. And each case should have a break keyword. We will see why this break is important. If you don't specify break, and when case is equal to 1 in your example, if you don't have break, it will execute the next case as well. Because with break you say that as soon as you find the switch value, the case is found, you switch, you break the entire cases. You don't go for the next case. Let's see, in case 2 we console.log Tuesday. And we always in switch we have a default case as well. So let's say user input 11 and we don't have a day of week for 11, right? If we get that one, what should we do? For that we have default, and for default you can also do something here like invalid day of week. And okay, let's run this as it is with the number 11 as of day of week. So we get invalid. Let's say I input 3. It's Wednesday. And let's say I don't have the break here. Let me comment this so that you know if there is no break what will happen. What happens is that it goes and see, let me clear. I found Wednesday, right? That matches the value that we are switching. Wednesday, then it comes to the Thursday. It runs this one as well. And here we have brick, then it says stops. Otherwise it goes down. If I comment this one, let me clear. See, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So it's really important to have your bricks, otherwise it will not function as you would expect. So this is how switch works. That's it for today's episode. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Feel free to drop your question in the comment section below. Till our next session, happy coding.